Hey, welcome back, viewers, to the Quarter Century Soldier. I am Felix Black, and I am going through my 25-year career in the United States Army. So today we are on year 2006. Catch you up a little bit if you haven't seen the other episodes. 2005 sees me in phase 2 of advanced individual training to become a laboratory scientist. Then I go up to Fort Meade to Kimbrough Ambulatory Care Center. It's like it's bigger than a clinic, but it's not a full-fledged hospital, right? It's almost like a triage center. So I'm there. To fully catch up on that, go watch 2005, the episode before this one. So 2006. Okay, here we go. So 2006. I bring in 2006 working in the lab. Like I told you, I didn't necessarily like the job, right? I like that it helped people, but in the lab, we are always doing training. We're always trying to update, keep our training up to date, whether it be on the machines, on the techniques. Add into that, you have, military training. So it's just it always felt like I wasn't ahead, or I wasn't kind of just like fully trained. Because, if it took you 6 months to get trained up on all the techniques and all the tests, the proper way, because it's a lot of paperwork, it took you like 6 months. And then once those 6 months were up, you were almost due again to start again. So it was just like that. And again, the lab techs that work there, the civilians that work there, they just have a certain type of personality. It's almost like a territorial. They love their sections, and they kind of want you. They don't want you to be you. They want you to do things the way they would do it. And anyone who knows me knows that that's not going to work. Like, if you give me a task, let me do the task. Don't tell me how to do the task, because if that's the case, you could just do it. Right? Just let me do that. So I'm having friction there, with the civilians that work there. Nothing off the scales. It's just, it's not fun working there. Okay, so 2006 sees me needing to move. So what I did is when I got to DC, or I got to Maryland, I had an apartment, a 1-bedroom apartment. Again, I'm still 24 years old, 25 at this time. And I don't remember having furniture. I got my first HD TV as a gift. HD TVs weren't these flat plasma screens that they are now. They were like these literally like huge tube TVs, and they almost weighed about 150, 200 pounds. Like, they were heavy as hell. But HD was amazing when it first came out. I think I was still renting my furniture from Rent-A-Center, if I'm gonna keep it 100% honest, right? I was heavy into gaming, so I would work and then I would come home and I would game pretty much most of the time. It saved a lot of money, but I was spending a lot of money because Maryland is an expensive place to live. Mind you, I wasn't cooking then. I'm not cooking now. So I make do with what I make do. There was no air fryer, Instapot, all of that type of stuff just yet, right? That's like a bachelor's dream, but I digress. So I'm in a 1-bedroom, and I think I might have been paying $1,055. For some reason, that number comes to mind. Really nice area. Landscaping was really nice. But they were trying to raise the rent, I think like $200. We get a stipend for living off base, right? Basic allowance for housing. So they give you based on the area that you're assigned to. So it's different in Maryland. It's different in Florida. It's different in Texas, different in California. I think the highest is probably Hawaii. I think DC and California are close second. So we get a little stipend, and what it is, I always like my BAH is what we call it. I always like my BAH to cover my entire rent, and then leave me a little bit to pay the little bills that I have. Right? You're not going to be getting like $3,000 and then find rent for like 900. You would, but when you come out, your car is going to be on cinder blocks if it's not taken already. So usually they're paying you a little bit more than what the local rent is for somewhere that's safe and secure, right? So I was coming in under what they were giving me as far as the stipend was concerned. But I think pushing me a $200 above was going to push me out of my range. So I had to move. I ended up moving in. So I got to Maryland in March of 2005. So naturally my lease is up in March. I moved in like February, further away, and I upgraded to like a 2-bedroom. At this time, this is when a family like my mom and my brother start to come visit me, and they have a place, a room, or rooms to stay while they're visiting. So I upgraded to a 2-bedroom, and I think I was able to find another place that was around the same as what I was paying. That one came with issues because I never got a key. So it was controlled access from the outside. So when you opened up your apartment, you opened up like indoors, and then everyone had to leave outside of a main door, but they had to like buzz you in, right? Buzz you in, you come in, and then you still have to like knock on my door to come in my apartment. It was cool. 2-bedroom, 1 bath, for around the same I was paying. But I actually ended up moving. Like I was probably living about 12 minutes, 10 minutes away from base, like literally right down the street. And I ended up moving probably about 20, 25 minutes away. So, I mean, I guess I saved money monthly, but the commute, it wasn't that bad. It was just further. Okay. So I never got a key to that place. I was like, where the hell's my key? Like to my door and stuff like that. They were like, oh, they just kept giving me an excuse, but I was like, okay, what? But it was still secure because I could still get in all of the doors, no problem. Weird like that. How was I getting in? Now that I think about that. Yeah, I remember that not having a key, or not having something. Maybe I had a different key for the deadbolt and for the actual door, but I was still able to go and come with no issue. Okay. So 2006, we're talking around March, I'm moving. The war is still going on in Iraq, right? It's fresh because it just kind of kicked off in 2003. We're 3 years later. It's like full on, right? So it's not like it's slowing down, because remember, this war lasted 10, 15 years, if not longer than that, before the drawdown or the complete exit from Afghanistan. So 2 to 3 years, it's still, they're ramping up their rotations to go. Katrina happens in 2005 in New Orleans. And so 2006, was that 2005? 2006, you can go online and you can volunteer to deploy, right? I'm not saying that that's how bad the lab was, because it wasn't. I wanted to volunteer to deploy because I felt like, I'm a soldier, and though the war wasn't going on when I signed up, it's going on now. And I referenced this a little bit earlier as to say, once it starts, there's a lot of people that don't want to deploy. They don't want to go to war. I'm not judging anyone's choices there. But at the end of the day, you signed up, right? We understand that when you sign up for the armed services, the armed forces, that is your duty. Like, that is, if you're called to go, you're going to go, right? And so I saw it as an opportunity. I was single. I didn't have any children. I didn't have anything holding me there. And I know that you get like tax-free money, like when you deploy. So I went online and I signed up. I signed up in April. I had orders to go in May. That's how fast it was. It was just a simple registry. You go online and say, hey, I want to sign up. This is my job. Good to go. You didn't need to get your supervisor approval. I never talked to my parents about it. I think I told them that I signed up. It was never hey, I'm thinking about signing up. Should I never did that. And I'm going to keep saying that because that's what I want everyone to understand. That's one of the reasons that I'm doing this, is because I didn't have a roadmap, right? I didn't have anything to say, do this, do that. Is that part of my own doing? I've said that before. Yes, I probably should have found a mentor of some point, but nobody had that credibility with me. It's really hard for me to give someone enough credibility to give you my career or my life in your hands for you to make decisions for me. And that's the way I looked at mentors. I know now mentors can be just someone that you run ideas by. Hey, listen to this. What do you think about this? Right. But as I saw mentors then, you had a lot of people that did it, right? They had a handler. Oh, I know, this name person, when people name drop, I know the director of this, right? And he told me I should do this. And, they use favors, and that favoritism, it happens in the Army. It damn sure happens. The system, it's still happening. It's going to happen forever. Who getting the hookup. I just never wanted to seem like I'm looking up to someone, I guess. And I don't know, when you give someone that level of access or that level of control, I feel like it diminishes you as a person. And I'm larger than life. I may not be loud and boisterous and out there, but I'm larger than life. And so for me to kind of kiss the ring or kneel for someone, that's not happening. I'm William Wallace all fucking day. That's not happening. Right. And so that's the way I looked at mentors, right or wrong. Right. And I'm definitely thinking about mentors at this time that way. So I didn't consult with anybody. I saw it as an opportunity to go. I wasn't doing anything else. And so I signed up, and within a month I had orders to go. I had a thought. I had a thought, but I can't think of what it was just now. So I had orders to go. So I have to pack up my house and put everything in storage and go to Fort Bliss. Okay. What we're going to do is we're going to go to Fort Bliss, get issued all of our gear, and then we fly into Kuwait. So once I signed up, I got put on a team. It's a pathology team. So what we do is we do biopsies. We get tissue samples from patients in different hospitals around Baghdad. And then we analyze it just for, tumors, just for growth, for mast cells, just different reasons why we would, biopsy something. Because how it works where we weren't on the front line. We were like a secure hospital. But when people got hurt on the front line, we are where they fell back to, right? The front lines in front of us, obviously. And so the fighting is happening up front. You have, when you see the movies and, they get shot and they yell medic, right? They have medics that are there on site. And so the medics treat them on site. I got a gunshot wound to my arm. I'm going to get treated by the medic. He's going to wrap me up. You've also seen in the movies where they have the helicopters with the red X, like the Red Cross, right? On the side. That's a medevac. You also have CASEVAC, casualty evacuation, which is ground. And we have ambulances, FMLA. FMLA? I forgot what the term is. That's not it. It's not FMLA. It's something else. I'm mixing terms here. But when you see the Red Cross, on those military vehicles, those are medical vehicles, right? So those vehicles are going to bring those people who have been treated at the front line to us. And so now we stabilize, meaning we have a surgeon, we have an operating room. We have all of that stuff. So we can stabilize you. We can give you blood if you lost blood. We stabilize you, get you stable, and then we send you to Germany, which is Landstuhl, which is a fully functioning like level 1 hospital. They have everything, right? So that's how it works, and that's what we were doing there. If you are interested in the actual hospital and what it did, you can go look at HBO and look for Baghdad ER. It's on YouTube, and I've seen it on actual HBO. Baghdad ER is not us. They were leaving right as we got there, right as our unit got there. But the Baghdad ER is where I worked, right? And then, but the unit that's in the actual movie was the unit right before us. Like the cameras and HBO left probably 2 weeks before I got there. So Baghdad ER, I got receipts, right? So I'm with the 44th pathology team. It's 4 of us. Me, I'm in charge of the team, right? Just leadership seems to fall my way. And I meet all of those. It's 4 guys, me and 3 other dudes. And I meet them at Fort Bliss, Texas. We go through our little, I don't want to say training, but our little, admin stuff. We get signed up. We get our orders, we get our vaccinations, we get our equipment, we get everything that we need in order to go, right? And so we leave, we stop in Baghdad, and then we go through Atlanta. And so really during this time, this is, I don't want to say the height, but this is when like the thank you for your service really started, right? Because I remember Atlanta was really a jump off point for a lot of deployments. So you always had veterans, you always had volunteers, just other travelers when we walk, because we walk through with all of our gear, like not all of it, but just like a backpack and weapons. And they knew where we were going, right? We're leaving. So whether you're going abroad or you're going to Kuwait or whether you're coming back, like the people just lined the airport, and they're just like, thank you for your service, like clapping for you, cheering for you, all of that type of stuff, man. It was legit. And so we fly into Kuwait. It's it is so hot in Kuwait, right? So hot. It's just like it looks on TV. Sand everywhere, just desert. We fly into Kuwait because Kuwait is like the jump off point. Kuwait is supposed to be a safe space for U.S. forces. So that's where we're all the new people are coming through. People that are leaving to go back home, that's where they are too. And we have an Air Force, like that's an Air Force base, Ali Salim Air Base. So that is where the Air Force are permanently for their deployment. And it had Burger King, it had McDonald's, it had Pizza Hut, right? Because AFES is, just the store that's on base for us. We had like the AFES store that was there that sold, headphones, clothes, candy, just regular stuff. That's our version of Walmart on a smaller scale. So Ali Salim was really nice, but it was tent city. So you had these tents. When I say tent city, I mean it had to be at least 500 tents. 500 tents, and you had a certain amount of tents for women. They didn't have a lot of them because there wasn't so many of them, but it was like 500 just tents in a row, tents in a line, right? Just a big ass group of tents. The bathrooms were on the side because it was community. So in your tents, you had like one bunk, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it was like in a U. When you walked into the tent, I got 2 bunks, and then one straight ahead. These aren't really big tents, right? But they're not there permanently. I mean, they're not for people who are there permanently. You're staying a week, maybe a week at the most, and then you're leaving. It's a jump off point. The people who were stationed there permanently, they lived in the container home, like the container homes that we have nowadays. That's what they lived in. That's the first time I had seen those in 2006. So it's dusty, you know what I mean? Like it's hot. And this is just us preparing to go. So basically what we're waiting on is we're waiting on a flight into Baghdad. It's not as easy as it sounds just because of safety, right? We're at war. So it's not like, hey, we got, flights at 7, 8, 9, 10. You had, flights that were scheduled, flights that probably got delayed for whatever reason. And then, you might have a flight pop up, but they know who's in transit and who's supposed to be going to Baghdad and who's supposed to be coming back. That's their job. So I probably stayed there maybe a week. They had an MWR tent, morale, welfare, and recreation with, because multiplayer had just came online with Xbox 360, well, Xbox 360, somewhere in there. So now you're able to, again, like link up and play games. So we were able to kind of do that. So it wasn't that point right there. It wasn't rockets flying and bullets flying, because that's definitely a safe zone, Kuwait. We'll come back to that. We'll come back to Kuwait. Maybe I should say it now, because I'm probably going to forget later. We had this thing in the military for those who were members of deployments, right? This is what I wanted to say. This is what I forgot. And this is going to tie into what I'm saying. Once the war started and they were pegging units to go, they were sometimes pegging a unit to go for 12 months. You might come back for 6 months, and you might have to go back. Like it was a rotations like that for certain units, right? Because depending on how many soldiers we need, where we need them, it might not be enough for you to come back for 2 years and then rotate back in there. It might come quicker than that. On top of that, the reason why you had people able to sign up like me is because there was a lot of people that didn't want to go. So women would get pregnant. People would become conscientious objectors. Like they didn't want to shoot their guns. They couldn't carry a weapon because it was against their religion. People were coming up with all types of excuses as far as why not to go, right? It was a thing. So it wasn't just like everyone who's in uniform is just like, I gotta deploy to go fight this war, and I'm going. No, it was a lot of people that was getting out of it. Literally, people were having kids just so they wouldn't go. Yeah, and and we didn't take the entire unit. Those men and women who didn't go for whatever reason, they are what we called rear detachment. So we had a small team of maybe 10 people. If your company went, if your battalion went, you kept back rear D, maybe 10 people to kind of take care of stuff while you were there. Let families know. They were supposed to start a family readiness group to keep the families informed about kind of what's going on. Even though this was more of a digital age, we still had phones. We didn't have a lot of Zoom and Skype the way that we do now, but we still had phones. It was a lot simpler than kind of when my dad went to Desert Storm and he had to send mail because they didn't have any of that. We had cell phones. We had cell phones. I didn't have one while I was what we call downrange. So the thing about Kuwait is because the war is going on, anytime you saw somebody in their uniform and they had a patch on their right hand, on their right shoulder, they've deployed, right? They've gone. It used to be you had to be there for 6 months, then you get to put your patch on. Then it became you had to go for 30 days, then you get to put your patch on. And then it became as soon as your boots hit the ground, right? And foreign soil, Kuwait included. Some people, Qatar was included. I think for some people, I don't think a lot of people use it like that, but there was a lot of people because you started seeing a lot of deployment patches, right? You started seeing a lot of them. Everybody had them. So if you didn't have one, it became this stigma. Like, why the fuck you don't have a deployment patch? We got people deploying like 3-4 times, right? Like, why you don't have one? Oh, I wanted to. I tried to. Nah, you didn't. Because I literally tried to, meaning I went and signed up. So this war was going on 15 years. And all you had to do was touch your boots to the ground for a second and you get a deployment patch and you don't have one. That's one. And then you had people who just signed up to go to Kuwait, right? And those were more of your senior leaders because it was nothing to send us young people to war. And that's what people say. Young war is young people dying and old people making decisions. So the young ones, the 20s, the 19s, we're out there. Like I was there for 12 months. And you had people who were signing up like towards the end. I'm deploying to Kuwait. We didn't respect that as far as going to war. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you can't tell me you're a colonel, you're a sergeant major, you've been in for 20 years, 25 years, and this war has been going on for 10 years, and you haven't gone at all. So when you stand in front of us and you talk about teamwork and, doing your duty and doing what's asked of you, you're just blowing smoke because we can all see that you've never been, right? You've never been, because now we have an indicator on our uniforms that says this person has deployed. So it became a thing where now it was like, okay, you deployed, and then people would get to talking, or you would hear like, oh, okay, so such and such is leaving, they're gonna deploy. It's like, oh, okay, damn, where they going? Oh, they're deploying to Kuwait. What? like what? They're deploying to Kuwait? Like what? Nah, you going over there for a holiday, because what I just say, they had Xboxes, they had Pizza Hut, they had Burger King. It wasn't a deployment. It was almost like an assignment in a different country, right? That's the way I feel. That's the way a lot of us felt. And once I got towards the end of my career, having a deployment patch was rare because all of the new people coming in, they didn't have one because the war had ended. So I became outnumbered by what we call slick sleeves, because your sleeve is slick. You don't have nothing over here. So before it would be a group of 100 people and 95 of us would have deployment patches. So we'd be on the 5 like, hey, what's this? You ain't deploy? Like, what are you doing? Oh, nah, people, what has, you could tell that shit to people who don't know, but we know. I didn't deploy multiple times, but there's certain people that deployed multiple times, right? And they just weren't, we just weren't having that shit, because you didn't have to deploy for 6 months. You didn't have to deploy for 30 days. You didn't have to deploy for a year, 2 years, 3 years. You could have just went over there. But to not have anything is way worse than to go to Kuwait. And if you went to Kuwait, just chill, right? Don't be over here braggadocious talking about you deployed, because then we're going to ask, where were you? And if you say Kuwait, we're going to be like, okay. Yeah, I mean, you enjoy the food because y'all had like crab legs and shit every day, right? That's how we carried it, and that's how I continue to carry it. But I became one of the old guard, right? So it changed. Now, of course, they can't deploy, so we're back to where I was pre 2001. Anyway, so we're trying to get to Baghdad. Me and my team. We're at Aliyah Salim in Kuwait. So we fly in to what we call Victory Base. So Victory Base is in Baghdad, but it is a huge military base that's closer to the front line. So it's another jump off point. So again, like I said, Kuwait was pretty much, where you would get your shipments in. It was safe. Victory Base was a little bit different because it is closer to Baghdad. So if they're sending certain rockets and certain shit over, it could hit there. Nothing was going to hit in Kuwait. Not really. Nah. Nothing was going to hit there. But Victory Base, yeah. But Victory Base was huge. And that was our second jump off point for where you needed to go specifically in country. So you would fly into Victory Base, and from Victory Base you took ground. So it wasn't any helicopters going further into Iraq because, the motherfuckers get shot down. So we had what we call rhinos. Rhinos are black vans that are armored. It looks if you've seen Fast and the Furious and you saw that like that armored vehicle in like 7 or 8, one of them, it was like a big armored vehicle with computers on the inside. It's something like that, but it's smaller. But the armor is like thick to be able to take an RPG. And they convoy 3 of them. And we are going like 80 because right now we're starting to see an uptake in vehicle IDs. So you'll see a vehicle sitting on the side of the road. It just looks like it broke down, but then when your convoy rolls by it, it blows up. And so that was something that was really new to the Iraq war, the IED. And they would put them in dead animals. They would put them in vehicles. They would put them in just various things on the side of the road to where sometimes you wouldn't know. You would think that it was something regular. This is before we figured out like how to handle it. They would pull up to the gate in front of like the gate to get onto the FOB, forward operating base, and just blow it up at the gate. So the VBIDs, vehicle borne IED, was something that was established and new to us in Iraq. So what it is when you're going through these streets, you can't slow down, because if you slow down, of course, you're going to absorb more of the impact. So what you do is you just drive straight through it. So when we get into the Rhino, I got fucking 5 duffel bags and book bags. I got all. So now I have all of my stuff that I'm taking for deployment. And so, we get into the Rhino and we whipping 80. And I'm not talking like we on a freeway. I'm saying like we're in a city, not like a city like New York, but a little bit smaller. The only thing is there's nobody on the roads, right? Because they've cleared the pathway that they have to take. 80. And these things was maxing out like the whole time. So we're moving at night. So I'm telling the story in hindsight, but none of this I knew during. I'm just in a Rhino and we whipping 80 miles an hour through the city, and like we're redlining. We're not stopping for anything, and the drive is about 25-30 minutes. Yeah, like we're rolling through the city. So we get to what we call it's the green zone in the middle of Baghdad. So when it's nighttime, but you can still see buildings that have been hit with rockets from us bombing the city. You can see things that have been on fire and just burnt. Man, Baghdad was actually a really nice looking city. But we had to do what we had to do to that shit, and we fucked it up. So you saw all that going in, even though it was nighttime. Like, motherfuckers is not sleeping. You ain't on that bitch like tired. Like, I don't care what you was doing. Like, you up and just looking around and you alert, because again, we don't know. Like, this is our first time. You can tell by the way things are going that it's not a game. Like I said, when you whipping 80 miles an hour through the city and taking curves and all that type of stuff, and you feel like you in a centrifuge and you moving with the vehicle. Yeah, like this is legit. So you up. So we get there, and we're in the hospital. Like, so I worked out of the hospital because we needed a hard shelter there. And like that's where I started working at. I worked in doing the pathology, doing the biopsy, but the unit that came in needed more people because they were short. And so they needed more people in their lab. And we're medical laboratory specialists just like they are. And so that's how I met, my friend now, that I worked in micro and helped out during blood drives. So when people came in hurt, we would do an emergency blood drive. So we have obviously their unit is full of people that's willing to give blood. So if Felix is hurt and I need a blood transfusion, everybody in my unit is like, I want to give blood. I want to give blood. I want to give blood. So the hard part with that is just tempering everyone's emotions, right? We are medical specialists. We want to help 100%. There is no questions about that. But we still have to have structure in the chaos, right? And so that is one of the issues that we had to deal with, is just units are emotional, and rightfully so, right? Rightfully so. One of their people, one of their comrades, one of my comrades, someone who wears the uniform, just been shot, just been hurt, just been blown up for whatever reason. And, they're there and they want us to save them. So we are doing blood drives to get this person units of blood, units of platelets, just to be able to, keep them going. So, that was always something that was really intense, because again, people try to, the Army is so rank driven. And so when you have someone who we were Sergeant E5s, he was an E6, I was an E5. So we're not high on a totem pole. We're not high at all. But one thing is, we ran it. Like, we knew what the fuck we were doing. We ran it. And even though they would come in and, want to tell us like, do this, we can't do that. Like, this is what we do. Let us do it. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not going to look quick because it's not a quick process. We have to go through the screening. There's certain things we have to do, like in our job, that we cannot forsake because it's an emergency. Like, this is what we do for a living. Like, you might be infantry, you might be a tanker, you might be transportation, but this is what I do. And so you still run into that because people want to save the person that's just been hurt, and rightfully so. We want to too, but there's a process to doing that. And it's not a slow process. It's not slow by any means. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it, but it is a process. And so the more that we sit here and argue and go back and forth, you're holding up that progress. You know what I'm saying? So that's something that we ran into. So I was already there where my friend got there. And and so I was cool. I got there in August. I think they got there in October, maybe. September, October. So I had already kind of found my flow. I was already working in micro. So I had found my flow, and the guy who was working there before him, like, I was cool with him. I was, he was cool dude, funny. Nothing too crazy, but he was cool. And so when my friend comes in, he is business, right? So he is, show me what I need to do. Let me learn, you know what I'm saying? So I can take over, so I can take the control. Don't don't nickel and dime me. Don't feed me the real piece by piece. Like, show me what I need and let me do it. Right. And I'm the same way. But initially him coming in that way, I didn't fuck with him. Like we did not, I'm not gonna say we didn't get along, but it was one of those things where like, oh, okay, that's you, this is me, you do your thing, I'm gonna do my thing type deal. And yeah, we didn't get along initially. And that's because we're kind of built the same way as far as trusting people, learning people, getting that credibility from someone. It's earned, you know what I mean? And so we're not ones to just meet you and automatically just start throwing all of our qualifications. We meet you and assess you. Like okay, let me see what you got. Let me see. It's not about what you say. It's kind of like what you do. And yeah, we didn't see eye to eye at all on things. We never argued or anything like that, but it was just like, nah, I'm not feeling his vibes. I'm not feeling his energy type stuff like that. But that quickly changed because one thing about being deployed is that you're with the same people every day. And though people are there, people still have stuff going on back at home. People have families. Like I was single with no kids, but he wasn't at that time. And though I had mom, dad, and brother, it's not the same as having kids, as having a spouse. And we ended up bonding over just things that were going on. And so for me, I'm a person where I get surrounded. I don't know why. I get surrounded by a lot of people who I call check resume people. People where you meet them initially and they want to be Captain America. I'm the greatest, I'm the best, I'm the most awesome. And it's without me asking that. Like, I didn't ask you that. Like, why are you telling me that? Are you trying to match my aura, or are you trying to diminish my aura? I don't understand why you keep telling me, or you keep trying to get me to understand how great you are. I've never said that you weren't, right? I give people the benefit of the doubt initially. Where some people have zero trust in a person and you have to like build up, I give you trust. Meaning I'm not going to give you a kidney. I'm not going to like leave you with $100, but I trust you to be a human being. 99% of human beings, in my opinion, are good people. They don't want to do anything negative. They don't want to, because they know the repercussions, right? We don't want to get in trouble. We don't want to break the law. No, we don't want to go to jail. It's the 1%ers that don't give a fuck and they just do it anyway. But for me, most people are trustworthy. So I trust you to be you until you show me different. Now, does that mean you're going to burn me? Yeah, I mean, but it's not always like that. Sometimes you can tell how a person's moving, what a person says versus what a person does. Sometimes it doesn't have to be that they do something to you, like, oh, they steal from you or they lie about you. Sometimes they talk themselves into a corner and their actions don't match their talk. And so for me, that's just something I listen to and I start to, okay, like this and this isn't adding up. So that's how it comes down for me. And if you continue to be the person that you say you are, good or bad, if you present and say, you know what, man, I got some issues. It is what it is. I know I do. I'm working on them, but I have issues. I'm not perfect. People think that that's an easy thing to say, but there's a lot of people that don't admit it. And so I can say that that's how we bonded, was just showing that we're not perfect people, right? We look for perfection and we're perfectionists and we want to hold people to a high standard. But at the end of the day, we're not afraid to show our flaws. And so that's how me and him became like really, really cool, because like I always say, I'm a critical person. I give you feedback, right? And even though I'm friends with you, even though that I'm on your side, I'm with you 100%. If you come say, hey, help me hide this body. Okay, let's hide the body. Then I'm like, what happened? You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm like that. But you have to be honest with that. You know what I'm saying? You have to be real with that. If you present that way and you stay that way, I'm cool. Like, because you are who you are and you're not you're not going to change that for anyone. I've never drank. I've never smoked anything. I've never done any drugs, right? But I've had friends that have done it. And they're more concerned with me judging them for drinking than me not drinking. And even though they're my friends and they'll be like, hey, drink this, try this, do this. I'm like, no, I don't do that. And so 9 times out of 10, that person is like, okay, cool. I respect that because I'm not changing that for you. If I want to drink, I will go get a bottle of Ciroc or champagne like I did on New Year's and drink something. That's it, right? Like, I don't consider that drinking because this was something. It was an event. But I drank champagne for New Year's this year, 1 glass, and it took me like an hour. It was my retirement party. But like, other than that, I've never drank anything. So I've always presented that way, and friends know that. So now if someone new comes around and one of my friends are there and the new person doesn't know that I don't drink, they're going to offer me a drink. Hey, you want something to drink? My friends will say he doesn't drink before I even get a chance to say it, because I've always been that consistent, right? Good, bad, or indifferent. So when someone's telling me an issue, I'm always going to be an ear to listen, always. But if you're wrong, I'm going to tell you you're wrong. And if we have that level of, I don't even want to use the word connection, but if we have that level of understanding, then you understand that me saying that you're wrong is not a knock on you. It's a level of accountability, right? Even if even if I help you do something wrong, like I said, you pull up with a body and you're like, help me bury this. All right, let's do this. Like, what happened? Oh, well, I did this, but you did the wrong thing. I've already helped you. I've already done all of that, but I'm going to hold you accountable for that. Now, that's an extreme case, but when people are telling me things that they get into, I'm going to ask questions. I'm going to give feedback because I'm the same way. Once you're in a situation, you're always thinking you did nothing wrong. The other person did something wrong. So I look at it as non-biased. Yes, you are my friend, but I'm looking at it non-biased. And I'm going to say, I would have done that differently. Or no, I think that you reacted the right way. But the same way that if I say I agree with you, you're like, cool. If I say I don't agree with you, you should be like, cool. You don't have to agree with me not agreeing, but I'm going to be honest with you. And that was something that he didn't look at negatively, right? He understood, like, it doesn't come from a place of malice. It comes from a place of accountability. Don't just tell me, what someone else did. What did you do? Because we are all the hero in our own story, usually. And someone else is the villain. But we don't always give that part to where we contributed to how things went in a negative way. So that's why I asked those questions, right? So we bonded over that, just being honest and just being like, damn, like this person, it kind of thinks the way I do as far as everything goes. He was just a little bit more friendly than I was. That's all. He was able to play the game that I was not able to play. Meaning, the way that you see me, and people think that I'm really serious, that I don't have a fun side, that I come off mean, my delivery is mean, and all that type of stuff. The way I think, like he thinks the same way. He just has learned how to get people to receive it in a better light. So that is what I always admired. It was just like, damn, so it's not my way of thinking, it's my way of delivering. And I still have a delivery issue. Father, forgive me for my brash delivery. So I'm still working on it, but I don't necessarily hear anything wrong with my delivery. But people tell me that, so I take the criticism and try to work on that. So that's where we met. We met 2006, in the desert, doing blood drives for people. And yeah, so 2006, we just ended up, becoming really cool for that. In those instances, he was helping me get promoted because he was pushing me. So now I had someone that was who had the credibility because he's just like me, right? He's just like me. And he's able to make it work, his personality. But I just never could do that. I could never just be like, yeah, cool. Man, get the fuck out of here. I never could do that. I'm more just like, all right, appreciate it. And so my get the fuck out of here comes across more than I realize it. And yeah, I never could 100% play it the way that he could. I probably got to like 20%. And as I moved up in the ranks, it became easier because I understood it more. But yeah, I was never achievement unlocked the way that he was. And so I started, once I deployed, I started working for my bachelor's degree. And so that was something that he saw that I was doing, that he thought was, pretty amazing, is that we had a lot of downtime. Yeah, we had emergencies, and when emergencies were popping, emergencies were going. But we had times where there wasn't a lot of things happening. And so what I did is, I went to school and I was going to get my degree because this is the reason I came in. Going back to episode 1, the prelude, it's the reason I came in. And so I was able to learn to get tuition assistance. They paid for it 100%. And yeah, I went to school online and I was able to start the degree. I didn't finish it because I did go to school prior. So I already had an associate's degree because I got through the medical training. And I went to Embry-Riddle. So I had those credits. So I only kind of had to do 2 years of it, but it wasn't the normal August to December semesters. You could what's the word I'm looking for? Not advance through it, but you could just go quicker, right? If you could get the assignments done, turned in, cool. And then, you move on to the next. So, I was taking the max amount of classes to maximize the time that I had. So that's what I spent 2006, the end of 2006. Once I got there and we got rolling, it was moving up the ranks for promotion. So, he helped me study. He got me right. Like for presentation and all that type of stuff. And I was going to school. So I was kind of not pushing him, but like inspiring him to do that piece. So that's how we started to like really like bond together, because iron sharpens iron, right? So I think I had finally met someone who was just like, okay, like this person can keep up, if not push me, and I could push him too. So that was what really helped 2006 and the 2007 really happened. And in 2007, we'll get into that on Thursday. Yeah, but 2007, man, it goes down. Yeah, that's 2006. I'm in Baghdad, Iraq, working at the hospital. Again, Baghdad ER. It is a HBO special. That was the unit before me. If you go look at it, those cameras left 2 weeks before I got there, but they were filming what was happening in the hospital. And, that's kind of what that's what we did also. And as a caveat, we did do tests for Americans and for local nationals, Iraqis. So we did do that. And, an ethical dilemma that we always had, because we're human. Like I told you, if Felix Black gets shot and I come in for treatment, they also brought in like the Iraqi that shot me, which sounds insane, but it happened, right? And so we're Americans. We're there. We're medical specialists. I'm not a doctor. I'm a lab scientist. But we're not supposed to treat them any differently. And I'm not God, so I'm not gonna say, oh, I'm not giving this person blood, or I'm not running their tests the way that I'm supposed to. Like, that's not my choice. Like, my job is to run the tests no matter who it is. I just so happen to know who this person is, because when Felix Black gets a lab test done, you all have gotten blood drawn, right? You've gotten blood drawn, and your name goes on that tube. So if Felix Black gets blood drawn, my name is on that tube. When an Iraqi got blood drawn, it was kind of like handwritten, and it was a different code for them. So that was an ethical dilemma that everybody had to undergo in the entire hospital. Nurses, surgeons, doctors, dental, is that when the fighting was happening, we weren't differentiating who was who. They brought in the American, and they brought in the person that shot him on multiple occasions. Now, have they ever brought in just the Iraqi without who was injured? No. But on multiple occasions, these not individuals, but these two entities were fighting, and they brought both of them in for treatment. And so, yeah, that was it was never a huge deal, but just, think about that for a second, and because it was really happening. And yeah, we did run blood tests on Saddam Hussein. So that has been episode 2006 of the Quarter Century Soldier. I hope you all enjoyed it. It sees me in Baghdad, Iraq during the deployment for Operation Iraqi Freedom. And I will see you all in the next one.